Shameless.
United in the Europa League. Europa League. Let me tell them one time.
What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Friday morning. It's Friday, the weekend's here, and guess what? It's the day after the night before, the morning after the night before, which means another edition of Matchday Reloaded. Yes, we're going to be talking about Manchester United's 3-0 victory over Sheriff last night at Old Trafford in the Europa League, setting up that showdown, the Spanish showdown, next Thursday, Real Sociedad, Manchester United. So we're going to break down the game. We've got quotes from Erik ten Hag, Marcus Rashford, we've got clips from Flex, Mina, Faz, Marcel. We've got a loaded show for you. We've got clips from inside the press conference. We've got press conference clips as well this morning, so plenty to get into, which is why I am bang on time. I was waiting here, I was set up, I was ready, and I could see in the chat, I'm going to name names, unfortunately. Niall said there, come on Owen, be on time fella. Fella, I'm on time. It's 9:01, we've been live for a minute, yes, and I'm bringing the energy this morning because sometimes it's tough. Friday, end of the week, you wake up, you're feeling a bit groggy, especially after last night. Wasn't a thrilling game, but a good game for Manchester United nevertheless. So we're bringing the energy this morning, guys, yeah? We're going to get involved, we're going to talk about so much. We're going to talk about Alejandro Garnacho making his Manchester United first starts last night in the Europa League. Impressed immensely. We're going to talk a lot about that. Going to talk about Antony, the 360. Was it appropriate? Do people need to lighten up? Do people need to let go about it? Obviously, there was a load of criticism on social media or from the pundits going, back in my day. We're going to get into all that, so don't you worry. Yes. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club as well. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. You get your badges, your emojis, such as your flex emoji. There's several KG emojis, one with and without hair, so you can put those in the chat. You get your red and yellow cards. Marcel's porridge. There's even an Owen emoji, where I wore the glasses once on a transfer view, and it's still in there now. So you can use all of those emojis, and you get exclusive access to UV Raw, the behind-the-scenes look at the day-to-day goings-on at United View, back catalogue. New episodes coming soon, I promise. They are coming soon. So be sure to smash the like and be sure to subscribe as well. Of course, as I mentioned, Manchester United, 3-0 victory over Sheriff last night. And that, to be honest, I know it might have not been the most exciting game in the world. I know it might have been a bit, a bit dull at times, but guess what? That they're Europa League group stage. They're the Europa League group stage games I'm happy to have. I want to have a game where we win 3-0 against Sheriff and you go, it was pure domination. I mean, the stats speak for themselves. I think it was 75% possession. They didn't even have a shot. Not a shot on target. They did not have a shot at all. Zero. We completely dominated that game last night. I think they only completed just over 100 or so passes. So I'm happy with last night's performance. I'm happy with last night's result. As I mentioned, it sets up the Spanish showdown next Thursday. That's the key one because we really want to avoid that playoff game. I'm not sure what's actually called. Is it round of 32? I think it might be called. We want to avoid that one because obviously the Champions League teams are dropping in. In addition to that, it's an extra group of games in February that we really don't need. So we want to avoid that as well. So next week is the big one, certainly. Now, Erik ten Hag spoke to the media after the game, spoke to the broadcasters as well. We've got a couple of his quotes and we've got some clips of his quotes as well. And he said, yes, happy with the game, but we always want more. We scored 3, but we should have won at least 5, which is correct. I think we had several chances, didn't we? Ronaldo had a couple of extra chances last night. There was one where, I think it might have been first half, Malacia actually got in down that left-hand side and managed to cut in and have an opportunity. We had opportunities to get more than 3, but 3-0 is a good result. He said there were a lot of positives in this game. The clean sheet, we didn't concede counters. We also attacked well. They couldn't get out. The counter press was good. We created a lot against a compact team. We should have scored more, but there was a threat. And I agree. He also says, in the second half, I wanted to see Cristiano and Marcus close together in the 9 and 10 positions. I think that can be a threat. It's always difficult to defend against such players. They can take benefit from each other. And that was quite interesting, actually, wasn't it? That was interesting that Rashford came on second half, and I thought he really positively affected the game, it must be said. He looks really sharp, and his header was a real tough header to do. Still had a lot to do. It's a crossing by Luke Shaw. Talk about a connection. But Luke Shaw puts it in, and it's not a case of, he just needs to put a little bit on it, just guide it, and it'll go in. No, he's penalty spot-ish, maybe a bit further back than that. Really got to arch his muscles and change the direction of the ball. I thought it was an excellent goal. But what was interesting is Rashford came on and actually played as a 10. I can't recall the last time Marcus Rashford played as a 10. Now, I don't think that's going to be his position going forward, it must be said. But again, it was interesting to see him playing behind certainly the striker in Cristiano Ronaldo last night. Ten Hag also spoke about Alejandro Garnacho, saying he deserved this chance after hard working. There's still a lot of room for improvement, especially in the defending and pressing. But you can see in tight areas he can find solutions. There's a really interesting clip here, actually, we've got in just a second about Alejandro Garnacho, and we are going to talk more in depth about all of the players in the match. Certainly the standouts, but we've got a really interesting clip in a second talking about maybe why Garnacho hasn't played so far this season or hasn't been involved, and it's actually quite a surprising reason. Now, Ten Hag was also asked after the game about the spin by Antony, because the media was obsessed with the spin after the game, and he was asked by BT if Antony was brought off, because of course Antony came off. He said, was that because of the spin? And Ten Hag said, no, it was more or less planned. I wanted to see Cristiano and Marcus closer together, and I thought Garnacho was playing quite well. He was also asked if United need to be more clinical, which was actually something that Flex asked in the pre-match press conference. Flex said, is it a case of more, being more tactical, or is it a mental thing? And Ten Hag said, I don't know if those are the words about United needing to be more clinical. It's more to bring more numbers in and get behind the defensive line. That's especially about occupation of zones in the box, and that is what we can do better. And what is interesting with his phrasing there is pretty much that's exactly what he said to Flex when Flex asked him in the pre-match press conference, when he said, is it a tactical thing? Is it a mental thing? And he did say, well, it's a bit of both. It's both, and that is true. Sometimes it is tactical or it's coaching the players about how to finish better, or it's a mental aspect. You have to be ruthless and you have to have composure. But at the same time, he always points back to this, though. It's always about getting people forward. It's always about having people in the box. It's always about having people higher up the pitch. When he was talking about the Chelsea game, he said that even in that first 30 to 35 minutes, we dominated the game, but we didn't have enough people forward. And that's why he think we didn't score, which is quite curious, actually, him saying, no, it's not a case of we are lacking composure. Sometimes it's a case of there aren't enough options. And if the wrong options are there, you're not going to score, which is certainly quite interesting. Ten Hag then said the examples are the second and third goals. We are with more in the box, we occupy the positions, and that is what we have to do more. So essentially he's saying those second and third goals, the reason we get the goals is because when you have more people in the penalty area, you occupy other defenders, which gives your striker more space, which gives them a better opportunity to score as well, which I think is quite interesting when it comes to that clinical part of things and the composure side of things as well. So certainly very interesting there. Now, I did mention that we've got some clips from the press conference after the game, so let's get into some of these clips. The first one was about Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, Ronaldo made his return to the Manchester United squad and starting lineup after missing the game against Chelsea after the incident last week against Spurs at Old Trafford. And Erik ten Hag, it's early. Erik ten Hag was asked about Ronaldo. Was he happy to see his goal after having a couple of misses, after knocking on that door over and over again? Here's what Erik ten Hag had to say.
Yes. What you said, he kept going, and the team kept going to put him in the right position. He kept going to get himself in the right position. He didn't give up. I think that is what his whole career. That's why he is so good, and in the end, he get the reward for it.
And you know what? I agree with what Erik ten Hag was saying there, that I'm really glad Ronaldo got his goal. I am really glad that he got his goal last night. I think that there's always scrutiny on Cristiano Ronaldo, let's be honest. It wouldn't be Cristiano Ronaldo's career without there being pressure on him. But there was pressure on him last night after what had happened and after all of the questions that Erik ten Hag had received in the press. There was always going to be that pressure, that scrutiny. And as the game went on, it wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking good because there were a couple of chances. First half, the one Bruno cuts it back and he sort of dangles a foot here. If he gets any better connection, he probably scores. The big one was that one in the second half where he manages to skip past the player and he's kind of just inside the box and you're thinking, just sort of guide it into the corner, and he just, I don't know, he was very rash and he sort of swiped at it and it went miles wide and over. And even he had this sort of moment afterwards as if to say, wow, I'm not sure really what happened there. But he kept going. He also had a goal ruled out for offside as well. But I think overall he deserved his goal. I think in those instances, you would say that, yeah, in the first couple he missed them, but he was knocking on that door. And he got in the right areas. He got in the right positions. It's not as if, sometimes we've seen Ronaldo play this season and he has barely touched the ball at all. And he's not been in the right positions. Or even when he's come off and say a Rashford's come on, the discussion point has been, well, Rashford missed that chance, but would Ronaldo even be in that position? And last night he was in the right positions. Yes, it's against Sheriff. Yes, it's in the Europa League. But I thought he did well. And I'm glad that he got the goal because I just... for the life of me, I want this to all be behind us. I really do. I want it to all be behind us. I want to move on. Will he start Sunday? No. He will do what he has done for the majority of this season. That's start on the bench. That's come on maybe as an impact sub in the 65th minute. That's going to be his role until minimum the World Cup, possibly the remainder of the season. We'll have to wait and see in January. But I was really glad to see him get his goal, and I was really glad to see the reception that he got. And like I said, hopefully, we can all move on past this. We won't. Well, certainly the press and the media won't, because he'll always get asked about Ronaldo, Erik ten Hag, until that situation is resolved. But I was really glad for him because, like I said, I think he got into some good positions last night. Was unfortunate. And in addition to that, clearly, even though you're Cristiano Ronaldo, you could see at points last night, the confidence, he's not, firing on all cylinders. Clearly, he's not. There is match rhythm and there is certainly an element of confidence, of doubt. Why wouldn't there be? He's nearly 38 years of age. He's probably thinking, is the manager right to drop me or not play me? Are the things that they're saying about me right? I mean, he knows in his heart of hearts whether he's the same player he was even last season. So there's got to be that confidence part of it as well. But like I said, I was really, really happy for him that he got his goal last night and he got in the right positions, and I think that's important. Now, Alejandro Garnacho really was the one that people were talking about after the game. He's the one that truly stole the show, I think. Really impressive performance, direct, running at fullbacks, taking on players, skipping past players, showed pace, tenacity, energy, that directness that we just don't associate really with that left-hand side, particularly someone like Jadon Sancho. So Garnacho really staking his claim to be involved more this season. And of course, Ten Hag was asked about the Argentinian winger after the game. Here's what Ten Hag had to say and why maybe Garnacho hasn't played as much in the earlier stages of the season.
I think it was a good performance from him. He did what I expect him to do. He deserved the chance, and the last week's start was difficult for him in the season. I was not happy with him, but the last weeks I was happy with him. Get a better attitude, more resilience, more determination, and what you see, and he has a talent. Have first game, and that he knows. Yeah, I have to do better to get into the team and to create more. But don't forget the other things you are playing in the team.
I mean, you say that you weren't happy with him before. What had been wrong? What had been the problem?
No, wrong. It's young kids. They have to grow and to raise their personality. And they have to know what are, say, the laws and demands in football, in top football. And it's not only about a trick or about score one goal. No, we have to win.
Interesting. Very, very interesting what Erik ten Hag had to say there about Alejandro Garnacho. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. I've got over 400 people watching. We can get to at least 150 immediately off the bat as people start to file in this morning. Really interesting what Erik ten Hag had to say about Alejandro Garnacho there. Particularly, obviously, look, he praised him for his performance last night. I thought Garnacho was excellent. I thought he offered something different. As I mentioned, direct, pace, youthful exuberance, maybe, going at the fullbacks. And look, Old Trafford always has responded to those kind of wingers that are going to run at the fullbacks and are going to get people out of their seats and are going to inject something into the game a little bit different. But what was interesting there by Ten Hag, and it just goes to show why I'm just, I think why we all, or a lot of people really like him as the Manchester United manager, of him saying, look, I wanted, or I would have played him maybe more this season, but I had concerns about his attitude, essentially. His attitude wasn't in the right place. And essentially, that's Erik ten Hag again, reinforcing standards. If you don't apply yourself to the highest degree possible, whether it's on the training pitch, off the training pitch, whatever it may be, you're not going to play. This is Manchester United. I hate that phrase, but this is Manchester United. Standards are up here. And if you don't apply yourself, if you don't conduct yourself to the highest possible degree, there are plenty of other players willing and good enough to take your place. Now, Alejandro Garnacho last night was fantastic, but sometimes for those young players, in these really, critical key years, where you really have to drive home that professionalism that is going to set them up for the remainder of their careers. And it's difficult. We're talking about young men here. We're talking about Alejandro Garnacho, still a teenager. I mean, everyone knows how, a lot of people mature faster than others, and people, when they're younger, can be immature, especially, young footballers with the world at their feet, as well as the football. It can be very, very difficult at a massive club when you've got Manchester United as well, still trying to tie you down for a new contract. It's difficult to keep your feet on the ground. It's difficult to not be distracted by the trappings of football life and really truly apply yourself, because really your career is only just beginning. You haven't made it, you might be a Manchester United player, but you haven't made it yet. And that's the key point to drive home. And I think that Ten Hag, hopefully, and I think that the important thing there is that, yes, Garnacho hasn't played or been involved this season or in pre-season, right? He was on tour. I don't even think he got on during any of the pre-season games. But the important thing last night is clearly that's a response by Alejandro Garnacho. And I think that's really critical too. And Ten Hag would have seen that as well of, okay, I wasn't happy with certain aspects of, attitude or application. But he's improved that in recent weeks. He said that. He's improved that in recent weeks. So I've decided to play him last night. And he got a reaction. He got a performance. And now, for Garnacho, and I think this is the key critical thing as well. Now, Erik ten Hag in the past, and we've seen this in the league this season, where we go, that bench looks a bit light. I think Ten Hag's looked to the bench before, particularly those young players, and gone, I respect their ability, but are they good enough to be brought on now? Are they at the right stage of their development to be brought on now? Can they handle this? Can I rely on them? Can I trust them? Trust's a big thing for Erik ten Hag and his players. He has to trust his players to deliver, to not let him down. He's seen players that have let him down already in those early few games for Manchester United. So it's about trust, and it's about earning that trust of the manager. And I think Garnacho would have done that last night. I don't think Garnacho will start, say, Sunday against West Ham. You never know. But certainly going forward now, in those games where he turns to his bench and he needs something a little bit different, he can trust Garnacho. He can know that, actually, I know it's against Sheriff, I know it's in the Europa League, I know the pressure isn't as high as a Premier League game, or the scrutiny isn't as high as a Premier League game, but you know what? I can put him in and he can add something. He can make a difference. He offers something we don't have. So I think that's a real positive for him. And again, I think Garnacho was excellent last night. And obviously, the discussion then goes to Jadon Sancho. Garnacho offers something that Sancho doesn't, etc., etc. Look, it's somewhat unfair because you can't expect Jadon Sancho to play like Garnacho, because that's never been Jadon Sancho's game. Sancho has never been about running up people, never been about taking people on with pace and gliding past people. But in terms of form, Sancho can do way, way, way better. And that left-hand side now, there are options there. There truly are. And I think what is quite reassuring to me, actually, is in this time where the striker position's a bit of an issue for us. Martial's out injured, Ronaldo doesn't necessarily fit, and Rashford's having to do a job there for the time being. On that left-hand side now, you've got Sancho, isn't particularly in form, but you've got Garnacho, who's a viable option now, and you've got Anthony Elanga. Anthony Elanga, who came on against Chelsea and really affected the game. So I think there's real positives there, and I said, I think Garnacho is a legitimate option for United going forward, and I think that's a real positive. Speaking of Garnacho as well, Flex asked the Manchester United manager about Garnacho's performance and his qualities. Here's what Ten Hag had to say.
Garnacho, a lot of fans were pleased with him today and how direct he was, taking on players and getting the fans off the edge of their seats. I know you spoke about him mentality-wise, but is that something you're looking for from all wingers? I know I've spoken to you before about Jadon and trying to get more direct, and you saw when Anthony Elanga come on the bench, off the bench against Chelsea, he was direct. Is that what you're looking for from wingers, to be direct?
Yeah, I was really pleased with the performance from Anthony Elanga in Chelsea. But so it was also a difficult decision whether I play Anthony Elanga or or Garnacho. But that was really close. But finally I decided, because in tight areas, Garnacho, he has really good capabilities in the tight areas to find solutions and to take players on with his tempo dribbles. So I liked it. But as I said, there is a good development from the youngsters, and they have to get closer to the gap, and they have to contribute to the squad and contribute to our results. But they have to deserve in the training, and when they deserve the chance and the opportunities here in Old Trafford.
There you go, the thoughts of Erik ten Hag about Alejandro Garnacho yesterday. And to his point, and he did say this in his pre-match press conference as well, he said when it comes to these younger players, the background players as he called them, it's about taking your opportunities. It's about having that crack in the door, kicking it open and making that spot yours. And I think Garnacho did all that you could have asked of him last night. I think people were excited to see him. It was somewhat surprising to see him on the team sheet, but as I mentioned, I think a real positive is that he's a viable option for Manchester United now. And I think that's a credit to him. And I'm really excited to see his development going forward. There's still a way to go. He's still a really young player by far. He's not the completed and finished article you would say about physicality. That will come with age and, putting on a bit of muscle. But in terms of that directness, that pace, there has been already a few games this season where we've said, we need that player that's going to take someone on. And I think we have that in Garnacho. Now, I think still his contract might expire at the end of the season, maybe. So we need to tie him down. And in addition as well, as Ten Hag said in his previous comments about him, we need to ensure that his feet stay on the ground, and those concerns maybe that Ten Hag had about, or the reservations about his attitude or his commitment to get ironed out. And seemingly with Ten Hag's the guy to do that. Absolutely. He's the guy to keep people's feet on the floor and maintain standards at Manchester United, and I'm really glad for that. Antony, not that Antony. People are talking about the trick, the 360. If you didn't see it, it was 0-0 in the first half. I think maybe, half an hour in, something like that, 35 minutes in. He receives the ball on the right-hand side, and he does his trademark 360. Does a couple of them. I think he does 3 of them. 3 360s. And I don't know what that is in maths. 3, 6, 9, add 6. Is that 1080? That might be wrong. Nevertheless, it's not the time to be doing maths. He does that, and then he puts the ball out of play. And there was this criticism. About, it wasn't the right place to do it. Robbie Savage said it was embarrassing. People saying he did too. I don't know. I was in a daze because he did so many. Nevertheless, he did the 360 and then kicked the ball out of play. Tried a free ball. It didn't work. Got a lot of criticism for it from the pundits or from people on social media saying it was embarrassing. And, the pass he did went out for a goal kick and it wasn't the right time and it was showboating. And Paul Scholes saying it needs to be kicked out of him, all that kind of stuff. Well, I'll give you my thoughts on it in a second. But Ten Hag was asked about it in the press conference after the game. Obviously, the cameras on BT Sport did pick up Ten Hag when Antony did it, kind of roll his eyes. He's used to it because he's done it at Ajax before. And here's what Ten Hag had to say about the trick and his thoughts on them going forward.
You mentioned tricks. What did you make of Antony's double twist?
I don't have a problem with that as long as it's functional. But so also from him, I demand more, more runs behind, more often in the box, more followers in, and more tempo dribbles especially, and more playing in the pocket. So we demand more dominance in this game. And when now and then there is a trick like that, it's nice. As long as it's functional, if you're not losing the ball, if you're attracting plays, then it's okay. But it's a trick. Because of a trick, then I will correct him.
To be honest, I agree with Ten Hag. I really didn't care. Honestly, I thought it was funny. I could care less. This is the weird thing about all of this kind of stuff, is that when we signed Antony, there are all of these comps going around on social media. Joga Bonito. Oh, look at this player. We've got this flair player. We've got this skill player. All this kind of stuff. And then he does it. and then people don't like it. Let it be who he is. We want to sign players with personality that express themselves on the pitch. Is there a time and a place to do it? Absolutely. Was it the right time to do it in the game? 30 minutes in, 0-0, and then the pass that goes out for a goal kick? Of course it wasn't. But who really cares? After the game, I'm more focused in that Manchester United won 3-0. I could care less about a skill that happened 30 minutes into the game. It really doesn't matter. And it felt like, really, again, hearing some of the pundits talk about it, or I heard Robbie Savage on commentary, it just literally felt like Grandpa Simpson shaking his fist up at the air. Oh, these kids nowadays with their skills and their FIFA, back in my day, I'd have kicked them. Well, okay, football's evolved, football's changed. You know, different players react to different stuff. It might be someone like Antony where he needs to try something a little bit outrageous just to wake him up. It might have been just a case of him thinking, oh, actually, I'm just trying to hold the ball up a little bit. Who cares? Literally, who cares? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Certainly not enough that after the game, Ten Hag's getting questions about it. Surely the question should be 3-0, good win. Not, Antony's skill at that 1 minute that didn't pay off. Who cares? Like, it's really not a big deal at all. And those that, want to make it a big deal for whatever reason are just very unhappy with life. Really don't want to be in the business of trying to change someone's personality or play style or flair or anything like that. And if any of the players had a problem with it on the pitch, they'll have a word. Or if an opposition player had an issue, they'll kick them or something like that. Who cares? Literally, it's not even the biggest deal at all. And as Ten Hag said, I don't care if it's functional. In that situation, was it really functional? Probably not. To be honest, my more frustration was the pass. I'd just rather the pass be accurate afterwards. And let's face it, if he did the 360 and then passed it backwards, people wouldn't really care that much. It was just afterwards, it was a bit of a fail. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I mean, heaven forbid, could you imagine if we drew or if we lost? You'd think the sky's falling. Inflation, new government, and Antony did a 360 and then did a bad pass. Kids nowadays, it's just ridiculous. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And maybe it's like a cultural thing, because we're not really used to that in the Premier League. Ronaldo back in the day, when he first started for Manchester United, they used to go crazy because he did step overs. They got to stop these step overs. Did you see him with his feet stepping over? It's a disgrace. It's awful. Not in our league. That doesn't matter. Really does not matter. It's ridiculous. It really was ridiculous. And again, I don't want Antony to change. He shouldn't change. That's the player we bought. We buy players, we try and improve them, but we buy players with their faults, with their flares, with their lack of flares, whatever they do, that's what we bought. And you back your players. So I hope Antony does it again. I hope Antony scores this weekend and does a 360 all the way around the pitch and keeps going over and over and over and over again. I hope Antony gets a penalty and instead of taking it, he gets the ball, does a 360 and then puts it in the top corner just to shut people up. And then there'll be double fists that's going, these kids nowadays, who do they think they are? God, doesn't matter. Everyone's got to criticise something. If it's not celebrating in the last minute against Chelsea, what, you're celebrating a draw now? Or if it's not people spinning on the pitch, how dare them? It's always something. Always something. Why don't you just be happy? Go through life. If you don't like it, don't watch. Ridiculous. And I know it's ironic because I'm moaning about people moaning now, but yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, what's next? Oh, yes. Erik Ten Hag was asked about Harry Maguire. Of course, Maguire's back. Maguire was back after his injury. He came on in the second half. He was asked if Harry Maguire was booed coming on. I didn't hear because I wasn't watching with sound on because I was doing the match view. So you can let me know if there were boos. But anyway, Ten Hag was asked about Maguire, his performance, and Manchester United's defending.
Harry Maguire back, which is good to see, but there was a mixed reaction. Did you hear some boos as well from the
No, I didn't hear.
And were you pleased with what you saw from him?
Yeah, I think after a couple of weeks, came in, it was a good performance. What I said, the whole team was organised well, and we didn't concede one counter for the whole game.
You've not conceded at Old Trafford now in the last 4 games. Is that the foundation for your success?
It's always in football the defending part. and the control in offense, in possession, that wins you in the end football games and wins you trophies. And so that demands discipline, discipline in positioning and in anticipating. So we have to keep that process going.
There's the thoughts of Erik ten Hag on Harry Maguire and Manchester United's defence last night. Again, I didn't hear the game with the sound on, so I can't, and I wasn't in the ground, obviously, so I can't tell you whether or not there were boos or not. You'll have to let me know. I know there's a stigma attached to Harry Maguire, and when he comes on, and we were kind of joking about it on the match last night, going, oh, Maguire, oh. I thought he did fine when he came on. It's a pretty easy game to walk into when the opposition team barely gets into your half, but I did fine. I thought he did fine. I thought he did a couple of nice cross-field passes. Whether we like it or not, particularly in the remaining block of games that are on the horizon right now, we're going to need Harry Maguire, because we've only got 3 centre-backs. Rafael Varane's out of an injury. The starting pair clearly should be, and I think will be, Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof, and I'm content with them as a backup to Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane. I think they're fine. I thought Lindelof did fine. I thought Lindelof has actually done well when he stepped into the side recently, so got no problem with that. Ideally, you'd have Rafa and Lisandro, but that's not the situation. Varane's out of an injury. And Maguire, we are going to need him. We are. You know, you can say a lot about his future, whether he's the right guy. If he's good enough for Manchester United, no. Is he good enough to be the Manchester United captain? Clearly not. I think especially in a side now where there is multiple leaders. You can look at that Manchester United side and really see leaders in the side, whether it is Bruno, whether it is Casemiro, whether it's even someone like Eriksen, Lisandro Martinez, Varane. Already you've got like 5 or 6 leaders in that side, and you can really tell the difference between them and Harry Maguire. And I do think that'll be an issue where it is resolved, hopefully, going forward. But we will need Maguire for those games going forward. And look, and if you're an England fan, he's going to be playing in the World Cup, so he needs to get some minutes anyway. So, I thought he did fine. In terms of a game to come back into after injury, and when you've got concerns about, you know, the pace of the game or the pace of the centre-back, that's the game. We don't have to really do any defending anyway. But just to focus on Manchester United's defence going forward, talk about the bedrock. The bedrock of what has been the real true improvement under Erik ten Hag. You look at the recent games, they didn't even get close to us last night, and again, it's not much of a brag because it's Sheriff at home in the and they say Champions League. Could you imagine Europa League? So you know that's not much of a brag, but still, that's a clean sheet. Against Chelsea, we were really unfortunate to concede anyway because of a penalty. Apart from that, didn't really threaten. Yeah, they hit the bar, but I still thought defensively we were really comfortable. Against Spurs, don't concede, really comfortable. Against Newcastle, yes, they hit the bar on the post in the first half, but apart from that, we were really comfortable. Defensively, we're really secure and we're really solid. And that, again, has been the foundation to start dominating games now, to start dominating possession, to start winning the ball back. We've seen, I think it's since October, United have got nearly top of the league for possession, or right in that sort of that conversation for top of the league of possession, ball recoveries, and that all starts from the defence. And I think that's a real positive, a real positive for Manchester United. And we saw it again last night, and hopefully we see it again at the weekend against West Ham. But I'm now to a point, it's a little bit different that Varane's not in there, but I'm now at a point where I do look at that United defence and I go, I'm happy. I don't feel like we're going to concede every 5 seconds again. You know, last season where it would be a case of 1, we weren't scoring enough, and 2, we just leaked goals. I mean, it was the worst season ever for United in terms of conceding goals. Whereas now, on a regular basis, we're getting clean sheets, or even when we're not, we're saying, well, it's a penalty, or we were really unfortunate to concede there. So again, I think that's been a bedrock of Manchester United's improvement under Erik ten Hag. And as he said last night, I thought that we defended very well too. Again, wasn't much to defend from, but it all has to start from somewhere, certainly. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. How many of you are watching right now? We've got nearly 700 watching, less than 150 likes. We can do better. We can get to at least 300, 400, 500. As I always say, if everyone liked the stream right now, I don't want to do the maths. We'd have nearly 700 likes. Yeah? I mean, that's pretty good for this time of the morning. In terms of maths, I've tried maths a couple of times this morning, not really worked out. I tried to add up 360s, that didn't work. I tried to add up the likes there, that didn't work either. So yeah, but be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. I think we're like 300 subscribers away from 125k. So if you haven't, we're this close. Wow, 300. This close away from 125k. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right hand corner. Let's get some reaction from some of the UV guys after last night's game. Flex, of course, was at Old Trafford. Here's what Flex had to say after Manchester United's 3-0 victory over Sheriff.
Evening's work, really. Nice routine win. I said that before the game. I said it'd be so nice to just get a nice routine win where we get the goals that our performance deserves. And actually, we probably deserve more goals, to be fair, if Ronaldo had his shooting boots on today. Where do we start? I'm going to start at Garnacho. I thought he was a breath of fresh air. I really did. I thought he took his opportunity well today. I thought he was exciting. He got me off the edge of my seat like he did to a lot of the other Manchester United fans. And rightly so, we came off to a standing ovation. And in the presser afterwards, you're expecting Erik ten Hag to wax lyrical about him and say how good he was and say, how well he did and stuff like that. And he did kind of do that, but he went straight to his attitude. And actually, I want to talk about this because I think it shows exactly why Erik ten Hag is perfect for Manchester United. It shows exactly why Erik ten Hag is in control in these early stages of his Manchester United tenure. He basically said that, he hasn't been happy with Garnacho's attitude up until now. And now he is, and that he did well, but he's demanding more, especially with the young players. They need this, they need that. And I just felt that was really good because us as fans, we want Garnacho to play. There's been loads of times this year where we're like, why is Garnacho not playing? Let's put on Garnacho, put him on here, put him on there. We didn't see him on pre-season tour as well much, or I think at all, actually. And to hear him say that in that moment, again reiterates the fact to the youngster, to Alejandro, that you need to keep working hard and keep your head down. And again, it proves he's building standards. It proves he's building a culture, and it also proves that Garnacho can respond. Okay, it's against a very poor Sheriff team, but he was at it. And you know what? When you look at what Jadon Sancho's been doing on the left-hand side, compared to what Garnacho had done, yes, it wasn't in a Premier League game, so I'm not suggesting that he's better than Jadon Sancho, but it was definitely refreshing to see him play in that way. Look, it was something that we'd been missing. Someone who gets the ball down, takes on players, and is really direct on that side of the field. Obviously, we know we're getting that with Antony. On to Antony, actually. There's been so much made of online about him doing the Antony thing. Then he played the ball out. I think Paul Scholes has said it's embarrassing and that needs to be coached out of him. And Ten Hag didn't exactly say that he wouldn't talk to him and that it was perfectly fine him doing that. What he said is that he's fine with how he plays as long as it's productive.
The views of Flex there outside Old Trafford after Manchester United's 3-0 victory over Sheriff last night in the Europa League. Let's talk a little bit about Marcus Rashford, guys. Rashford came on in the second half, as I mentioned earlier on, played as like a number 10 in a number 10 role, which was certainly quite different for him. But I just want to talk about his improvement and the difference between the Marcus Rashford of last season to the Marcus Rashford of this season. I mean, it really is staggering, isn't it? And it just goes to show what a difference a breakaway can make, what a difference a clean slate can make, and what a difference having your arm, the manager's arm around you really can make. I mean, we saw, certainly I did, and I don't know about you guys, I can't speak for everyone, and I never will try to, but I saw certainly a Marcus Rashford last season, confidence on the floor. We know his quality or his best qualities at his peak. He's not a bad player. And this is the thing as well. Last season, you saw a player that was completely out of confidence, out of form, and a lot of people jumping on his back. And, part of it was justified. But there is a good player in there. Is he world class? No. Those people that have compared him to, it's like Mbappe. Come on. Let's not be silly here. But certainly, he's a good player. And he's got qualities. And I think he, maybe more than anyone this season, really has benefited from that clean slate, from that clean start. And again, when Erik ten Hag first came in, and he said that it was a fresh start for everyone, sometimes some of the fans didn't want to hear that, particularly what we lived through last season. And that's fair, because it was the worst season ever in the Premier League. And because a lot of those players had down tools, and a lot of those players just weren't good enough, and some of them still aren't good enough to play for Manchester United. But for some players, they weren't playing at their level. They were playing below their level. And Rashford, to be fairness, it couldn't get much worse for him. But he's starting to look like a player now that looks fresh, that looks confident. Again, when he came on, I thought he showed energy. I thought he showed composure. As I mentioned, his goal is not an easy goal to score. And also as well, Rashford's playing really well this season when he's not even really playing in his best position. Rashford's far more effective coming in off the left-hand side, and I think that's where he'd want to be playing. But at the moment, he's doing a job. He's doing a job as a centre-forward because Martial's always injured, and Ronaldo doesn't really fit into Ten Hag's system. So again, I think he deserves more credit when it comes to that. He'll get more goals once he actually has that just nailed-down left-hand side position where he's in that role every single game. He'll even be getting more goals, and I think he'll be playing better. So I'm really glad to see him have this confidence once again. I'm really glad to see him getting goals, getting on the score sheet. And as Ten Hag has said previously in press conferences, the reason why he sort of turned around his form somewhat is that it's a happy Marcus Rashford. It's a Rashford that's got confidence. And again, I know that last season, for instance, with the incident off the pitch after the game where he confronts the fan and all that kind of stuff, it summed up Manchester United, really, didn't it? Chaotic, negative, and just every day was a different story, and it felt like it got worse. And that's not completely gone away, and that will always be there for Manchester United. But again, I think Marcus Rashford is the perfect example of why a clean slate is important, and why sometimes it's important for everyone to move on and not forget the past, because you can't just forget last season like it didn't happen. It's always important to have that reference point, but it's important not to live in it. Not to live in the past, move on. Last season happened. It was bad. It was really bad. We had to all live through it. But now we've got to be looking forward. And as a player, you've got to be looking forward and go, right, that last season can't happen again, but I can be better. I can show my qualities. I can improve. And that's exactly what Marcus Rashford has done. And again, I think people were right to criticise him last season. I think people were right to demand more from him because he's better than that. And we've started to see that he's better than that. Now, he still has, was it a year left on his contract? He'll get an extension in terms of that year added on. But this is the kind of form that would be warranting a new contract. Still not the time. The time for me would be to give him here at the end of the season. But we now start to see what he can offer Manchester United again. And I'm glad to see that. I am really glad to see that. And I think, again, that's credit to Erik ten Hag. And his goal that he scored last night at Rashford, I thought was a difficult goal, and I'm glad to see it. Super chat from Amir says, we need more skills like Antony's. More. Nothing strikes fear into a fullback than have to keep guessing. More, Antony. Well, that's a great hashtag at the end. I like that. Antony. Excellent. Antony. If that's not a like, I don't know. If that's not worth a like click, I don't know what is. So Marcus Rashford absolutely played well last night. Really glad to see that. As I mentioned, got nearly 700 people watching. How many likes have we got? Once again, we've got 202. Exactly. We can do more. We can get to 250. Let me know also as well who you thought the man of the match was last night. I think there's several good options. There was Garnacho, Christian Eriksen. We are going to talk about Eriksen in a second. Was it Rashford when it came on? Was it Luke Shaw when he came on as well? Lots of different options there. So let me know in the chat who your man of the match was. Let's see also what Mina had to say. Mina joined us in UVHQ for the match review. I spoke to her after the game. Here's what Mina had to say. Christian Eriksen today as well. Felt like he had just the run of the pitch at Old Trafford. So much time on the ball. But have we also seen today, just if he does get time on the ball, just how effective he can be?
Yeah, today, like Eriksen, I think he flourishes pretty much all the time, but he does flourish against low block teams when he's got so much time on the ball. Today he could have, I think he had like 5 to 6 seconds on the ball every time to look up and look for a pass, look for a 1-2 touch, pick out the best pass, and he actually did assist the Dalot header from the corner. And even the free kick where he kind of just hit over, it wasn't too bad of a free kick. He's the, the puppet of our midfield. Like he does control our midfield, and in a game like today I would expect him to control that middle because he's got so much time, he's got so many options. United have so much possession, so I definitely did expect that. And it's Christian Eriksen, it's what he's capable, it's what he's been brought in to do. It also allows Bruno Fernandes to actually play up more like as a second striker behind Ronaldo. That's how he was playing when he plays in that 10 role behind Ronaldo, until he went out to the right, which is where we actually saw a lot more of him when he was on the right hand side. So Christian Eriksen, he had a good game. He does have these games where he's, Europa League, we've got so much time on the ball, we've got a lot of possession. It just gives him the opportunity to not just look up and just find a quick pass, but find the right pass because he's just got time. And today he just showed it again.
Antony in that first half, when it was 0-0, he did the circle, he did the Antony special. Now, he's going to get criticised for that because it's 0-0, because it's the Europa League game. Do you have any issue with that, or is it going to be a big deal made of nothing?
I don't have an issue with it. I do have an issue with the fact that he probably was so dizzy that he ended up passing the ball out.
That was the problem.
Yeah, that was the issue. But if he did end up finding his man, nobody would have had an issue with it. And I think, you know, it's 0-0, it's versus Sheriff. You could feel the goal was coming. Something like that. I don't know why he did it. I like it. It makes me laugh. Obviously, I would be a lot more annoyed if this was like the Premier League and we're down 1-0 or something. But people just need to just have fun. Like, we haven't seen a happy Manchester United team in a long time, and it feels like these players are happy to play for Man United. They're happy to play for the manager, which they've said so many times. They're happy to play with, you know, they know what it means to wear the shirt and have that badge. And he's just having fun on the pitch. Obviously, it's a Europa League game against Sheriff. I don't expect him to do this like if we're in the round of 32 or knockout stages. I don't expect him to do that. But I think people are just being too harsh. They're just being too harsh, saying, you know, and I get why they are being harsh, because he passed the ball out.
The views of Mina there from UVHQ. Big up Mina as always. I want to talk a little bit about Christian Eriksen as well, because Christian Eriksen, I'm not actually, who did get man of the match from BT last night? I didn't actually see, so you can let me know in the chat who got man of the match. But Christian Eriksen, again, what a player. He was in the press conference with Erik ten Hag on Wednesday, and he's got this sort of calm, sort of understated swagger about him. You know, he believes in his ability. He was asked, did he expect to join Manchester United? Did he think he was going to be involved? Did he think he was going to be a bench player? He said, no, I thought I was going to play. And realistically, why should he? Why should Christian Eriksen expect to play? Obviously, what happened to him last year. But when he went to Brentford, he was clearly a class above the group of players there. No disrespect to him, but clearly he was. And before that, when he was at Inter Milan, he was starting games. He just won Serie A. Before that, he was a regular starter for Spurs. Got to the Champions League final with them and had some really successful seasons for their standards, certainly for Spurs. So, of course, he would be playing. And just because of what happened, again, don't let what happened to him in Copenhagen define him. Let his comeback define him. The fact that arguably he might be playing some of the best football in his career right now. He's at a giant club with huge expectation on him. And he's playing some of the best football. He's controlling games, dictating games. I mean, if you give him the space and the time that he was given last night, he will ruin you. And that's what he did. And I'm so happy we've got him, because we haven't had a player like that, I think, for a while, that is just so cool, so calm, so composed, so understated. And again, he just dictates the tempo, controls the game. And that midfield pairing now between Eriksen and Casemiro, I mean, I know they might be on the older side. They're both, 30 and 31. But that's a proper pairing. I thought Casemiro, again, before he came off, was excellent. Got an elbow to the face. Blood was drawn on Big Game Miro, but he was fine. And that's a pairing that I'm really excited about. Eriksen was asked about it in the pre-match press conference. What's it like playing with Casemiro? And he was saying, well, you know, we still got to get to know each other, but good footballers know how to play with each other. And that's really how it works. It doesn't take a long time. Look at Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane. After one game with each other, that's a partnership formed. In comparison, at centre-back, we've had how many different partnerships over the last 18 months, and none of them are formed. Good players can play with each other instantly. And that's what we're already starting to see with Casemiro and Eriksen. So that midfield pairing, I think, is a real positive moving forward. And again, Eriksen, he's just got that composure, that range of passing that we were lacking in the midfield before. And it's a great, they complement each other so well in that Casemiro does win the ball back so often. Again, since he's been in the side or starting the games, I think last night was his 7th or 8th consecutive start, something like that. But after he started the game last night, or since he started recently, rather, Casemiro, we've had the most recoveries in the league. And Casemiro's range of passing is actually pretty decent as well, which is a positive. It's not like previously where you win the ball, but then you've got to shift it to someone that can pass the ball, because that's not their expertise. You've got Casemiro who can win the ball. He can do the pass if he wants to, or he can just give it to Christian Eriksen, who can find the pass as well. So that midfield partnership, that midfield pairing is something really to be excited about, absolutely. Now, Flex spoke to Faz as well after the game. Faz was there at Old Trafford. Here's what Faz had to say about Manchester United's 3-0 victory.
Some good performances today, man. This could have been another one of them kind of like banana skins, ammonia settings where we're having 30 shots and not scoring, but we managed to get that first goal before half-time, and then the floodgates kind of opened up from there. How do you assess it tonight, man?
It was, as we got comfortable in the game, it looked like we're going to get a goal, and eventually we did. And once we did, you see the boys settle in. But at the start, I was like, here we go again. Shit, here we go again. I don't know. I just feel like it's Sheriff at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I want to give credit to the boys, and of course they did a good performance, but it's Sheriff at the end of the day. Sociedad's going to be that times 10. And then the passing's going to be better. The transition's going to be better. The saves are going to be better. The attack going forward.
Do you feel like we play better though, like against better opposition?
Yes and no. Oh, sorry, against better opposition.
Yeah, like
we turn up against big teams.
that
That's
will
what we do.
help, yeah.
That's what we do. But like I said, today the lads got a couple goals. But listen, let's be honest. We should have killed the game off a long time ago. Ronaldo should be easily a hat-trick in today.
Yeah,
easily a hat-trick in. Big concern when Martial comes back and we can put him back into the team. But it was a good, enjoyable performance.
That's not going to be anytime soon as well, by the way, with what Ten Hag was saying in there as well. He's just not sure when he's going to come back. He just said it. He just said it. But Garnacho, man, talk to me about it. It was a refreshing performance. He got a standing ovation and was really exciting tonight, man.
Yeah, like you said, obviously people go and check the video that obviously you man made, but he was peppering those fullbacks. I just love watching players like that. I get a sense of joy with players beating players. That's what it's just my type of football. Not making players, fighting for the ball, the hunger, asking for the ball constantly, not shying away when he gets challenged. Big players there, and his first time in Old Trafford getting starting minutes and against some seriously physical players, getting clipped all the time, doesn't put his head down, constantly at it. I don't mind you giving the ball away unless you're constantly trying to create something, trying to be a headache. And I would go and give him some more minutes, in all honesty, especially cup games, definitely. And it's not looking good for Sancho.
The views of Faz there from outside Old Trafford. Big up Faz. Diogo Dalot opened the scoring for Manchester United yesterday from a corner. Is that a set piece? Eric Ramsey. Ramsey. Big up Faz. No, I thought Diogo Dalot as well. Talking about players that played very well. Diogo Dalot. We talked earlier on about getting your opportunity and nailing down your spot. The right back spot is Diogo Dalot's. He has that thing under lock and key. Granted, there isn't a ton of competition for him, and I would like to see more competition for him at right back because he cannot play every game. He's doing his very best, though, to play every game and play every minute. Of course, he got substituted last night, and Luke Shaw came on, and Malacia moved out to right back. But even when that happened, that right-hand side, and then Bruno was on the right-hand side. There was nothing on that right-hand side. It was so inverted that we only had width down the left-hand side. So the concern would be, that he does need to have competition. If something happens to Dalot, if he does get injured, what happens then? The positive is, it's not as if he has a massive injury record. He's incredibly reliable. Again, plays pretty much every minute of every game and gets the goal last night. And it's deserved. I think it's deserved on everything that he's done this season. As a manager, the players that are invaluable, those ones that you can rely on, not to play well necessarily, but just play. As we've said, one of the biggest things about Maguire recently is that he hasn't, or in recent years, not certainly this season, but is that he plays game. He's available every single week. We know absolutely that Diogo Dalot is going to start against West Ham and he's going to play the whole game. Thursday against Real Sociedad, he'll start. He'll play the majority of the game, probably the whole game. The following Sunday, he'll play the whole game. That's what Diogo Dalot does. And actually, the past should be a good indicator of that, because I've said it before. During last season, with the Euros, he played in the under-21s or whatever, European Championships. He then played in the full European Championships. He then came back early and did a Manchester United pre-season. Granted, it was still COVID, so it was that sort of pre-season games in the UK, but still, he did all of that, and like it was nothing. The guy is an engine. He's an absolute engine. He's a quality player. I think he's a good personality as well. We start to see his personality come out more, playing alongside people like Varane and Lisandro Martinez. I'm hoping to see more of a connection between him and Antony on the right-hand side, but we are seeing Antony come back and support Dalot more often, which I think is important as well. So Dalot's, again, he is a constant now on the Manchester United side, and I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. And he's always checking the pulse. The pulse is there. He's the pulse of the Manchester United side. How about that? Speaking of the pulse of the UV team is Marcel. Bit of a reach. Here's what Marcel had to say.
To get that first goal, you're thinking, but it came just before half time, which was a good thing. Diogo Dalot getting his head on the end of that. How do you assess that? What did you like about it?
Goal in the first half, I think, is important. I mean, against Newcastle, I think we should have won that game. Against Spurs, you should win that game as well. Even against Chelsea.
We did win against Spurs.
Oh, sorry, yeah, but I mean in the first half.
Oh, right,
You should
sorry.
win that first half.
Yeah. Sorry.
You should win that first half. Like
Yeah.
those 3 games should be games that are won, but in the first half, you have to have something to show for it. I mean, all that kind of great progressive attacking play. Today we had something to show for it from the low goal in the first half. I think that's important. It allows players to express themselves again, come into the second half and play good football. And that would make the key point. I mean, Eriksen playing throughout the whole 90 minutes today, expressing himself, creating chances, dominating the game. It was a bit wasteful in possession, but I think when you're playing against that low block, you need somebody to be willing to break lines from deeper areas.
He showed that, innit? Like that in a team like Sharif, where you saw straight from the 5 flat, 4 flat, and then one guy just up there by himself, he was still behind the ball. You need someone like Eriksen to pass between the lines, and it didn't always come off, but he was instrumental in trying to make us do that today, innit?
Yeah, I mean, when you have Casemiro now, it's like 2 players guarding that line, knows exactly what positions to pick up as a singular, last holding the line midfielder. And then Eriksen's allowed to just drift into pockets, and Bruno then has to be higher up the pitch, but in and amongst those 2 flat lines, trying to make runs in behind. And we couldn't do that very well. I would say our biggest problem was the forward line again. And a lot of people have been saying that, especially in our community, about it's the forward line that's the big issue. You could see that today with Ronaldo in the first half, not really getting in goal scoring opportunities or areas. He just comes off that line too much. Ten Hag been brilliant in the second half by adding Rashford in there, almost making
key difference for you.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly that, Flex. It was like 2 strikers now, and then the 10 space is kind of free, and Rashford can drop in if he wants, or he can go long, or same with Ronaldo, and that gives 2 players the option. It also stimulates the opposition's 2 centre backs, because now they have 2 players on them to deal with, and I think that gave us a lot of opportunities.
Ten Hag said that he planned that as long as they were winning, he planned those 2 substitutions as well. He wanted to see Ronaldo and Rashford together, so he said that, and it worked.
Yes.
Great header from Rashi.
Yeah. And it was weird because I was wanting Ronaldo to get into them kind of areas to score goals, and then I'm seeing, well done for Luke Shaw, by the way. It's great instant impact, great cross, and good build up, and he's got a good connection with Rashford. He knows where Rashford's going to be in the dangerous areas in the box and stuff. So.
The thoughts of Marcel there with Flex outside Old Trafford. Big up Marcel. I do want to touch on David De Gea just briefly because he had zero to do. I mean, nothing to do for Manchester United last night. No shot from Sheriff. So there was no shot from the Sheriff. We shot the Sheriff. Come on. No, David De Gea didn't have anything to do. But what was interesting is the reports before the game were about De Gea's future and his contract situation, and Ten Hag's got a decision to make. Is he going to make that decision? And it was quite interesting to read that De Gea wants to stay at United. That wasn't the interesting part. But the interesting part is that he would be open to staying on severely or significantly reduced terms. He's on 375k a week, and he understands he's very well compensated for that. So now is the time that Manchester United have to resist the urge to delve and work in major Glazonomics, because the Glazonomics option there would be to sign up David De Gea for free for 5 more years on a significantly reduced contract, or do they want to go in a completely different direction? Do they want to sign a younger keeper? Do they want to sign a goalkeeper that is more proficient with his feet? Names like Costa, Simon, all on the list and reportedly being watched by Manchester United. So it's a really interesting time when it comes to the goalkeeping position for Manchester United and the decision that they're going to make. So that's very interesting to see, and I'm sure that's a story certainly that we'll continue to see in the upcoming months, certainly as we head towards the end of the season, because as I mentioned, for some it might not be a priority that we're talking about the goalkeeper situation right now, but it is a priority for Manchester United because the guy in between the sticks is coming up to the end of his contract. Now we could see obviously time added on that extension year, but a decision will have to be made soon, and certainly it's going to be an interesting one. Is it going to go the way of what Marcel wants, or is it going to go the way of other people as well? Just briefly as well, before I do wrap things up, I've seen a lot of people talking about Donny. I'm not going to forget about Donny. You could say you've got the Donny Van agenda, Owen. I do not. Came on for a cameo at the end. Thought he looked pretty sharp actually, and now you could say, I mean, really is now. It was now or never anyway for Donny, but now certainly you could say, well, now that we're playing more in the style of the Erik ten Hag way, we're dominating the games in terms of possession and we need a bit of movement off the ball. Maybe now it is the time for Donny to have his moment to shine for Manchester United. It would be bottom of the ninth, swinging for the fences, because if it's not now, it really will be never. But we'll have to wait and see. It's a difficult team to get into at the moment in his role. There are still Bruno Fernandes is the 10. If it's not Bruno, it might be Eriksen. Last night it was Marcus Rashford. So it's still going to be difficult for Donny, but now that we're starting to play a bit more Erik ten Hag ball, possibly there might just be a chance for him there. So there you go, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned, plenty of content coming up as well. Of course, it's match day in just 48, just taking 6 hours off it. 48 hours. We've got West Ham as well, so we've got all of the coverage for that. Previews, match views, fan views, you name it. In addition to that, there is a press conference today that was recorded last night, so I will be back later on today to break down the answers from the press conference too, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. Remember, you can join the UB Members Club. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content, so be sure to join there as well. We really appreciate all your support. I appreciate all of you for joining me this morning for another edition of Matchday Reloaded. Have a great Friday, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Peace!